Hi, my name is Joshua Jordan, and you're watching the Fatherhood series with Men in Marriage. Got a story to tell. Got a story to tell. Most of year 7, it's like a big sieve, and like whenever I have my breakfast in the morning, we put it in the frying pan because our microwave stopped working. The frying pan, the pot, and then we heat it up and then pour it into the cereal. And then whenever we pour it into the cereal, we find some gooey, like creamy bits, and then the milk comes out. In year 7, it's the process of the good bits going into the cereal and the bad bits staying in the sieve. But the good bits get to go further into Wicker High, and the bad bits, they just kick them out or throw them down the drain. So it's more of just finding your feet in year 7. People think it's a time to mess around, but I think if you don't make it past that sieve stage, then you won't really get anywhere.
My eldest decided to repeatedly disrespect his mum, and I didn't want to do the shouting, I didn't want to do the usual chastising. I didn't want to do that. I'm just tired. I come to the place where, and I don't want to admit to my son, that those famous words that parents say, I'm sick and tired of you doing such and such. I'm sick and tired of. I just think you lose instantly when you start announcing that stuff. If you're saying you're running out of options at 11, you're in trouble when you're about 18.
In junior school, it wasn't about fitting in. I was just trying to get my own way, really. It was just all the time getting angry for no reason. And I didn't really have anything to prove in junior school. I just did it. And then when I went into high school, it's like I saw how small I was, and I felt like I need to prove myself. From junior school to high school, I felt like I would say I wouldn't get as angry as I used to in junior school. So in junior school, I would lose my temper for no particular reason. I wouldn't say there's anything I really need to change. There's a lot of things I need to change, but since junior school, it built up. In junior school, I think I was a better person in junior school than I was in high school. High school, I've got in more trouble than I have in junior school, simply because just other people's, characters rubbing off on me, and I felt really bad for my mum because I walked into the house every day and my mum would say to me that she didn't know who I was most of the time, and sometimes I feel like I need to change the new characters picked up.
I said, okay, you're disrespecting your mother, you're disrespecting your father, and you're making us feel like we are not your parents, because you just want to do your own thing. You've got all the answers and everything. So I said to my son, here's what we're going to do. Meet Jeanette, meet Clinton, and we are your landlords, and you have now taken away the right for us to be your parents. So what does this mean? I said, well, you're not going to call us mum and dad. There will be no mum and dad relationship. We're going to try on a trial period to see if it feels right for you, because you're obviously displaying displaying this thing where you don't need us. So we are Clinton and Jeanette. He said, but Dad, I said, I'm not your dad right now. You're going to call me Clinton. And this made him really, really uncomfortable, because he was expecting me to normally, So he welled up and went into tears. And I said, okay, that's all great, but that doesn't mean a thing to us now. So I sent him to his room, when he went up to his room, I said, "Can you write this on your board, please?" Because he has a whiteboard in his room. I said, "Rent will be £25 for the week." I said, "You're doing quite well because it's actually a bit more than that. Water rates, electricity, you know, all the shower, the long showers that you take. You might want to think about those because I'm going to be adding them to the bill." And we went for a long list of things and ended up on his whiteboard. I said, "That's what you need to make at the end of the week. You can also have a key." Now, he's been asking for a key for ages, but not under these conditions. So I gave him my front door key and I said, "You're free to go and do what you want. You can go to your friends if you want to. You know, the friends that act like they don't need parents to, hang out with them, it's fine." And I dropped him into the town centre about 10 o'clock in the evening. I said, "You're free to go." And he walked down this road. I sent him out. He said, "What, Dad, you can't let me out here?" And I said, "You're free to go." So I pulled up around the corner and just literally double backed around. So I'm facing front ways. But for about a minute, he was by himself walking down this road as I'm watching him. He couldn't see me. And he was like, "I can't believe my dad's just at 10:30 let me out at night time to go walk to my friend's house and do what I want." So I picked him up at the other end of the road. He kind of looked at me, startled. I said, "How did it feel, son?" He said, "If I was alone and I was scared." And I said, "This is what it feels like if I'm not around and if I give you your freedom too early, because this is what you're displaying." Anyway, we carried this on for about 4 days. I said, "You're not allowed to eat around a table because that table is reserved for people that, you know, want to regard their parents high." At this time, I must say, it was very painful for me. I said, "No hugs, no hi dad, no nothing." And at the same time, I'm greeting my daughters, talking to them around the table while he's eating his food, because now he's a lodger. And he really felt it, and he looked confused too. I said, you know, because you disrespect your mum's not going to do any washing for you. She's not going to do the cleaning for you. She's not doing anything for you. You're doing it yourself.
I've stopped hanging out with most of the older children in high school because I found they showed me their true colours. Even though I knew it was wrong, I still hung out with them, and I've stopped that completely now. Because I saw a couple of kids across on the corner of the street smoking and just doing bad things, and I've just stopped hanging out with those children that were bad. So I feel like I'm just trying to start completely new and start it as if it was the beginning of the year again. And when I come into year 8, it's going to be, for me, completely new, just completely new year. And if I'm lucky, well, I hope I will be lucky enough to complete the Civ stage, then see how it goes from there.
I actually felt quite down for those few days, because it felt like I lost a son, and I was just trying to keep this up so I can just get him to understand. But it was really, really, really horrible, and I know it was horrible for him too. But it was the only way that we could reset and realign ourselves, you know, in a way that we kind of had these ground rules made. Anyway, I'd come to the Sunday. I said, you know, "Son, we cannot go to church in the morning and go in and pretend like everything's okay. Not because for people, but we cannot go in and profess that we are going into service and giving God the praise. But there is a problem between us." I said, "Shall we make this a day where we reset and start?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, son." And you could see the whole thing lifted off of him. And I said to him, you know, I must forgive you because our Father forgives. And the weight that was lifted off of him and the weight that was lifted off of me was great. It was fantastic. But the whole process to get my son into that place of understanding, of realizing what he did, it's horrible. And you know, you don't want days like that. You want great days where you can hang out, you can have a great understanding, you can high five each other, you can hear what your sons learn. But I suppose you have to have those times in your relationship so you can move to the next level. Nobody tells you about those things. Everyone thinks that's a downside. No, you don't fail. I felt like I'd failed because the way, you know, he was being untoward his mum and his dad. But you've got to have those times in order for you to get to the next level. And we don't recognize it as a launch pad to jump to the next level. So I'm grateful for it, but it's horrible going through it, I think.
Sure, he's going to challenge me a little bit more in terms of things, and in terms of just, you know, pushing back. And to be honest, if he didn't, I'd probably, don't have to listen to this, but if he didn't, I'd probably be a little bit disappointed, because you should challenge your parents, because that's part of growing up. You shouldn't just accept things. So I think over the course of the next year, I think things might become a little bit more fractious, might become a little bit more argumentative, and I'll expect that. But I think it's just going to be a case of maintaining the closeness that we still have now for next year.